1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in they Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a man. Fuck all that shit. We on and cracking, long time coming, man. I got my boy Duroc Crip on here, man. It has been a long time in coming, and us trying to get this interview, man. I think we tried to do it maybe almost probably about a year ago, because time flies. We had some technical difficulties, but now we back, man. It's a privilege and an honor to have you on the show, homie. How you doing, man?
Hey, man. Hey, it's a blessing. And in all honesty, bro, I have to say this, right? I feel like this is probably one of my proudest accomplishments since becoming a content creator on YouTube, right? Actually being able to come into your home. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for allowing me in, bro. And thank you for giving me a better sense of direction in this content creator space, man. So it's hey, my hat is always off to you. The deepest love, respect, always off the top. You know what I'm saying? You've never presented yourself as anything less than a real man. You feel me? And when I look at you, I'm proud because I know you. I consider you to be a friend of mine, right? We was in probably one of the most dangerous prisons in California, right? At the same time, in the same building, we dealt with each other. We know each other, right? So to see you go through everything that you had to go through to end up where you're at right now, right? In which I consider to be like just something to be celebrated, and the ultimate blessing of gaining your freedom back, being active in your kids, grandkids, and your family life like a grown man's supposed to, man. That's what I love to celebrate. So again, man, my hat is off to you, man. Thank you for allowing me into your home. Salute to you. Love and respect always.
And I appreciate it, homie. And it's crazy, right? Because as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm dealing and experiencing some emotions I didn't anticipate on. And so what that is homie, just knowing that, you know, you have been locked up for so long, it's a sense of sadness that comes over me because, homie, I genuinely want to see you free, you know, as the same for everybody else, right? But especially for individuals who I've done time with, just understanding and knowing, you know, what you have to experience on a daily basis, and, you know, just knowing that, wow, man, I think like 2 days ago, it's been the 8-year anniversary since I've been home, right? And so just thinking like, dang, sometimes I'll be thinking of certain homies that I used to talk to, like, damn, I've been home for 8 years and the homie is still in there just going through all that stuff, man. So, hey, I appreciate it. And once again, shout out to you, man. So let's get into this, homie. Like you just mentioned, right? We ran across each other in 1996, I believe, 96, 97, somewhere, Salinas Valley D Yard. So you approximately, or you'll tell us exactly. So how long have you been incarcerated? Because I think you was locked up like a year or two before we ran across each other, or maybe longer. So how long have you been actually incarcerated?
I got locked up March 2nd of 1995.
Okay.
And been gone ever since. March 2nd of 1995, been gone ever since.
Okay. And so, what is that? 33? How many years is that? 30, 33?
It's just about 32, 33 years.
So, homie, what for individuals probably who have never been in locked up, and even myself, because I've done 24, but 30 plus years is a long time, homie. How are you able to maintain and just, do your time and deal with all that stuff without, without becoming just an angry, upset individual? Or how are you able just to do all that time, period, regardless of who it may turn you to? Explain that to us.
It's been a process, in all honesty. It where I'm at mentally right now didn't come overnight, right? This was years in the making. This was years in the making, bro. I think back to, because this is actually my second time in prison. The first time I went to prison, I went when I was 18 years old, and I got out when I was 21, right? And soon thereafter, 90 days plus after being released from prison, I was back in prison on this case, right? So this is my second time in prison. But the first time, it turned up in me what was there. But when I got out, I kind of felt invincible because I was young. I went through what I had to go through, went to prison, and got out, and I was still young. Now I'm getting out. It's G's, it's OGs that's getting out around the same time as me. And I'm like, damn, I done been through. And they acknowledging me in the hood like I was on the prison yard with the young homie, and he was doing this and he was doing that. And he got the attention of everybody that's out there. This is when dudes were still hanging on the block deep. He got the attention of everybody out there, and they looking at me. They like, that's right. That's right. And me feeling a sense of pride from that. And that just fed me into wanting more. So I found myself back in my hood every single day, day in, day out. So much so, me and my road dog, Diamond Blue, rest in peace, God rest his soul, right? We would be sitting out in the heart of the hood, and we used to drink a lot of 40 ounces, Old English. It was a normal thing to come look inside my homeboy's car and just see multiple 40-ounce bottles in the back seat from us just drinking all day. And you know what I'm saying? But just being in that environment like that. So just giving you a little history and insight on how I entrapped myself by going back to a toxic environment. You know what I'm saying? Which led me to where I'm at right now.
No, 100%, and I get it, homie. And honestly, as you was talking, I was just envisioning myself as a youngster, the way we would look up to older homies when they would come home from the pen, right? So for the people out there who don't understand that, who've never experienced and grew up in this life, when a dude comes home from prison for whatever reason, right? He is shown a lot of admiration. It's almost, well, it's not almost. Going to prison is like a rite of passage. And then to have a homie come home, he didn't survive prison. He may be more muscular. Dudes is looking at him different. The girls is looking at him different. And this foolishness, unfortunately, is passed down. Whatever you may have been experiencing when you was locked up, like, people not looking out or whatever you was going through, the second you hit the hood and you see that admiration, it's all forgotten. You didn't forgot all about that. And now you doing the same things that sent you to prison the first time after a while, because now you drunk, you intoxicated by the admiration and stuff. And it's a sad situation, because when you come home young, you don't really realize, like the difference between me now and me a long time ago. It's some differences, but it's not. But the main difference is I give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? If something happened today, I would think about the consequences before I do it. And so that's the sad part, homie. But listen, the next question I wanted to ask you is, so what was it like, homie? Because when you first came to prison, you was extremely skinny. You looked very young. What was it like, homie, going, because what I know with me, people used to call me youngster all the time. What was it like, homie, going from youngster to OG in prison? I mean, when was the day you realized, like, damn, when somebody calls you AOG, and you like, damn, because you don't see yourself as no OG. So explain that process. How did that happen for you?
It's a trip, bro, because when I came back to prison on this case, and I'm around older homies, right? And they're calling me. Everybody called me Young Crip. Everybody referred to me as Young Crip, right? Because I was still young. Technically, I was still young. And I just remember being called that for the longest. And then one day, as years passed, a young dude called me old head, right? And I believe at this time I was in my probably like mid 30s, right? And I remember him referring to me as that, right? I'm like, old head, I ain't no old head, right? Because my mind is still, it's crazy because when you get locked up, whatever age that you are at that time, in a lot of cases, your mentality is still gonna have attachments to what you was when you came into prison. Meaning there's still gonna be like if I was 18, in which I was, some of that mentality is still gonna be there years later
Let
because
me
that's
pause.
what you remember yourself being.
Let me pause you, homie. Hold that thought real quick. Let me just and just to piggyback onto what you're saying. You remember the rap group Arrested Development?
Yeah,
Later on, once I came to prison and I realized exactly what you're saying, that's when it dawned on me what arrested development meant. Your development is arrested because you are captured. You see, I used to see a dude walking around with a jerry curl. And this,
yeah.
I hadn't seen a jerry curl in about 20 years, but this dude still thought jerry curls was the shit. But that's when it hit me, arrested development. But go ahead, my bad.
Exactly, man. And it's a trip because being that I still had the you know attachments to who I was when I first came to prison. In prison, I'm around a whole bunch of I gravitate towards the younger dudes more, and they gravitate to me more, right? Because I relate to them on that level, right? And I look at a lot of them like, damn, I was like that when I first came to prison. I remember being this age and thinking that I knew everything and didn't know nothing. So now that I'm an older dude and they are acknowledging me as old head or unk or big bro or OG, right? I'm like, I don't feel nothing like that.
So for those who may not know, for the most part, your entire time you have been on you have been on level fours, right? I think you might have said you dropped down to a level three for about 7 8 months or somewhere around there. So I got a question, homie, because when I was locked up, I was on some lower yards, right? And I noticed even on a
Yeah,
level three that there is a big difference in the unity among Crips and even the blackness period. And do you think? Well, I think it's because, homie, on those upper yards, higher yards, you have more influential Crips, older Crips, who was there because at the time me and you came to prison, homie. If you think about it, Tookie was only around 43 years old, younger than you are and younger than I am right now. So you had Crips who had more of an influence to the culture and stuff, and I think they pushed more of the original ideology of Cripping. You had Crips on those yards who were cool with all Crips when Crips was cool. So even later when Hoods may have started beefing, you got dudes on that yards who was cool and homies. So they tried to keep all that stuff down. Do you feel that plays a part in the unity among the Crips and stuff on those level fours when you have more influential people whose word will be listened to due to their names?
absolutely. What's crazy is this. I think about this all the time when I go outside and I be in the day room or I'm on the yard with the homies, right, from everywhere. And I look around and I see, I got all these gray hairs now, right? And all these guys that I met when we was in our early 20s, everybody got gray hair now. I've watched all these gang members from everywhere age in this system just like I did. And it's a trip. that all of us, anytime, and I know the younger dudes in here, they trip on it because all of us is connected in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We have developed a certain level of love and respect for each other that dates back to when we was in our early 20s. And I tell a lot of these dudes in here a lot of the times, like, man, you know how long I've been knowing this individual or this person or that person. Then I tell them, and they'd be like, he used to be like that. I'm like, yeah, this dude was a head buster. I'm telling them these different stories about these guys that now you see is on canes. Some of them is on canes. Some of them like like we've aged differently. And
Right.
to see these dudes now as elders, when we was in here, like a lot of these dudes young, impressionable, some eager to learn and build their name and reputations up because they are around certain names, certain OGs that has these reputations that far exceed the basic game member. You feel me? So when
Right.
they see us all having the connections that we do as elders now, it always trips them out. But at the same time, it lets them see like it's all right to be cool with this person from this hood or this person from that hood, although they may not get along. It's all right because I see these OG dudes that got these great friendships outside the gangbanging stuff, which gives a opportunity for certain bridges to be connected.
Most definitely, because as you mentioned, a lot of these younger dudes, they grew up in an era where that's all they know. Where this hood don't get along with that hood. They never, some of them never grew up in a time where you had peace and unity among certain hoods, right? And so they can't understand that because all they know is this dude is an enemy, right? They've never had any interaction with those dudes, right? Probably until they come to prison. So let me ask you, homie, who, if any, were some of the influential Crips or Bloods that you were around on certain yards that just, their words was highly respected and they was instrumental in keeping the unity among the blacks?
Man, that would be an extremely big list for a lot of different reasons, right? But let me see, and I don't want anybody to feel slighted if I don't mention them, right? But the most impactful, um, I told the story about OG Al Capone from A Trey Gangster, rest in peace, who lost his life with Lil Sodi horribly in the car accident, right? OG Al Capone, I first met him in 1994 in Centinela State Prison. That was my first time meeting him, and at that time, I was just getting to the prison. I was 21 years old. As soon as I get there, I'm in some stuff, right? Bam. I go to the hole, get out. When I get out the hole, they put me in the cell with Lil Loco from A Trey Gangster. This is how I got introduced to OG Al Capone and Mad Pup and all these OG dudes that was around. But Al Capone took a liking to me because he seen that I wasn't no punk. Like I said, when I got to that prison at that time, this was 1994. But also at that time, you had Big Trigger Bird from Hoover, from Nine Deuce Hoover, who was another one, right? You had OG Wick from West Coast 30s, who was my cellie at that prison at that time in 1994. Baby Shady from 7-4 Hoover, who was extremely respected back then, who ended up turning Muslim, right? Okay. I mentioned Coach Zoe over at the Game Bangers Life Coach. He was another person that I had met way back then, right? Who these are guys that was very impactful as older keyways that I actually was I'm gonna say fortunate being in a bad position, right? But to learn different aspects of the game from, as well as a whole bunch of other people, you know.
Right.
So
And
them to
I don't
name a
know.
few.
And I don't know how much how much time or how much you're able to watch YouTube or not. Did you ever have any interactions with some of these more famous Crips or Bloods whose names are more popular now on social media since YouTube has started? in some of these stories that you may see a Kev Mack or the Hood Postman or whatever, Warren Cali. A lot of these famous Crips and Bloods are mentioned.
Well, I haven't, although there is some very famous ones that has been attached to some very high profile things, right? You mentioned Kev Mack. Kev Mack was in the Crip module with me at the same time, only they was upstairs. And
Uh huh.
and I told the story about when I was in there, they had a homeboy from Rolling 60s named Lil No Good who was in there at that time. And I told the story how we went to court, and this was during the time when we was going at it heavily with the Southern Hispanic Serenio gang, right?
Right.
They had put a green light on the Crips at this time, and we didn't know that. And I'm just keeping it real, right? I cannot bring anything other than truth and facts, right? So I'm just keeping it real. At this time, the Serenios had like a peace treaty understanding with the Dalmoos, and in which they ended up moving the Dalmoos and the Serenios like in the same part of the gang module, different tiers
Mm.
but the same part. The
Right.
Crip module wasn't like that. You wasn't finna be on no roll, whether it was Baker or Denver, you know, with the Crips. If you wasn't a Crip, it just wasn't gonna happen. So
Right.
anyway, they had like a peace treaty thing. So when they came to that understanding with each other, they also came with the understanding of anybody that they seen coming out the gang module that had a pocket attached to their shirt, they was Crips. If the pocket was still on their shirt, that was a green light to get on them because they was Crips. And coming out the gang module at that time, you wore blue and whites. So it was easy to track a person that if he had a pocket on his shirt and he had the blue and whites on, that he was a Crip. And that's what was happening. They was attacking us. So me and the guy Lil No Good was on the bus one day
and
coming
and
back
and,
from
and,
school.
and sorry for interrupting. So let me ask you. So are you saying that in making the deal with the Serenos, the Bloods agreed to tear the pocket off their shirt so they wouldn't have a pocket?
Yes,
Okay.
that's facts. That
Wow.
is
Okay. Go.
facts.
So
But
go ahead.
we Yeah, but we was the first victims of the pocket thing, right? Me and Lil No Good from Rolling 60s. And
Right.
and I'm telling this short story about that because like I said, he was upstairs with Kev Mac now, right? Now they are fully aware of this story, right? But when that incident took place, when they attacked us on the bus, No Good, me and him sitting side by side. We sitting in the very first seat on the bus. We up there talking. We the only ones that's coming out the gang module with blue and whites on, but we don't know that they came to an agreement with the Southern Hispanics to tear their shirt off. I mean, to tear their pocket off their shirt. We don't know this. So bam, when we get attacked, No Good is the first one to get hit with the chain. They came out their chains, and that's what they attacked us with, iron chains. So they hit him in the head and split his forehead all the way down in between his eyes, right?
Mm.
Which knocked him unconscious. So he was out of commission. Me and him is chained together. We're handcuffed together. So this hand is locked to him. So I only got one hand free. When he go out, I throw him down in the seat of under me and I jump on top of him with my body hanging in the aisleway because one of the Southern Hispanics was in the aisleway hitting us with the chains, and another one was standing right behind us in the seats behind us, standing up in the seat, hitting us with the chains as well. So I'm trying to blow his out. So I'm sitting on top of his body, literally with this my arm that's chained to him behind me, and I'm trying to snatch the chain out the one that's in the alleyway swinging at us, right? But every time I grab it, he'll snatch it back, which was making my fingers raw. And then he's beating me. He's hitting me. This whole side of my body, the skin was to the meat. You feel me? So anyway,
Right.
they knew that I saved Lil No Good to a degree because we was fighting for our life on that bus. You know what I
And,
mean? And we was handcuffed up. They caught us slipping.
and so let me ask to make sure I get everything right. So you guys are sitting there on the bus, unbeknownst of this issue that's going on, and so of course you guys didn't necessarily get caught slipping because you was unaware that a beef was even ensuing. So you guys are sitting there chopping it up, normally doing what you're doing, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, these two Serenos have come up out of their chains and attack you guys.
Yeah, man. I say slipping because we was specifically targeted by them agreeing to tear the pocket off their shirt.
Right.
Any beef that was going on between blacks and the Southern Hispanics at that time was Crips. It wasn't the Dalmoos. The Dalmoos had nothing to do with any of the wars that was going on at that time when I was in there. And this was during the time when we was in the gang module. You feel me? Hoover Gumby, he was in there. Shout out to my bro Hoover Gumby too, by the way. He was in there when all this was going on as well as Kev Mack. Kev Mack
Right.
was upstairs. And another guy that was up there with Kev Mack that I also know that used to cut my hair, he was the guy that got, when Nipsey Hussle got shot up and unalive, he was the other guy that got shot, Cousin Kerry.
Right.
Right? Cousin Kerry had just got out of prison, and I guess he had went down there to get Nip had some clothes or something for him. I guess that's why he went down there. That's what the story says. So, fresh out of prison, he go down there to get his blessing, and that situation ended up happening. But that's another guy that I know, Cousin Kerry. He used to cut my hair. You know, so it was a trip seeing his name attached to that situation with the loss of Nip. It was crazy to me.
Right. And so let me ask you, homie, I think that a part of you being able to survive for as long as you have in prison and on the main line, I add, and I want to add that because I think that it's important because regardless of whether a person agrees with the choices and the lifestyle that lead individuals to prison, what I respect about any individual, whether I disagree with what he believes in or not, is if he sticks to his beliefs. You know, if the dude is, even if he's 100% wrong in my opinion, but if his beliefs tell him to do A, B, and C under a certain situation, and then he sticks to them and he accepts what has to come with those beliefs, that's something that I can respect, right? And so, do you believe, homie, that wholeheartedly believing in the cause of cripping and representing your hood played a part in you being able to stay on the main line, keep your names in good standing? Because, you know, especially, homie, you and I in individuals before our era, the main thing of importance to us was our reputation, how others viewed us, right? So, do you believe that your belief in cripping played a part in you turning into the individual that you turned into?
I do. I do. And which is why on my show, right, I highlight this out as far as the gangbanging stuff go. Being that I still have my attachments to that, I feel that I'm perfectly qualified to speak on certain aspects of that culture, right? Coming from a person that still has that attachment and from a person that's locked up. On my show, I always say this, look, if you're not a gang member, you don't have to become a gang member to be relevant in life. I would always discourage anybody from going that route. If there is something that you are passionate about that has nothing to do with that culture, but if you want to be a basketball player, football player, lawyer, president of the United States, whatever it is that you want to be, focus on becoming that. Go full-fledged, indulge all your time into it. Chase behind your dream. And even if you fall short of accomplishing it, it led you away from where you could have been. So I always encourage, if you're not part of this gang stuff, don't become part of it, because there's no retirement plan, right? They don't cover your funeral, you know, if you just so happen to pass away from it. There's no benefits with it. But if you are a person that's a gang member, and that's the life that you choose to be in, and you consider yourself to be a real one, then I'm going to give you the appropriate information on how to go about doing that as well. Which
Right.
means, which means, if you choose to go to the main line and stay there and abide by all the rules and guidelines, then you're going to have the information for that. If you choose to go SMY, PC, then you're going to have all the information for that as well. The choice is yours as a man. But if you're going to be a real gang member, I'm going to provide to you the appropriate information on, because I consider myself to be that. Just like there's a whole bunch of others that considered themselves to be that. The ones that gave the ultimate sacrifice for that lost their life for it, that y'all put everything on, the dead homies, right? Made the ultimate sacrifice. How many is brave to make that sacrifice? And then the second sacrifice is giving up your freedom and ending up in a place like where I'm at right now.
Right.
For however many years, living under rules and guidelines of being a real gangster, a real blood, a real Crip,
Right.
without putting a pause on your gangsterism because you caught a blower case and they gave you 1 to 3 years for it, and they send you down here to one of these lower level yards, which 9 times out of 10 they're gonna do. But look, before you go to that yard, the information for you is available on how you're expected to conduct yourself. And if you choose not to abide by that and you choose the latter, meaning, oh, I'm going to go over here and coexist because I want to get back to my kids as fast as I can. The same kids that you had when you chose to carry that burner, you're out there gang banging, doing
Right.
whatever, right? You still had those kids then. Now
Right.
you want to catch a burner case and get back home to them as fast as you can when you was putting all this gang banging shit before them. Now you want to get back home to them, huh? Nah,
Right.
be a gangster. If you're gonna be that, you consider yourself that. Which means don't push the pause button on your gangsterism to go sit down amongst chomos, amongst other people that have different life choices. That's considered to be not good life choices. Let's just put it that way without anybody feeling attacked, slandered, or any of that stuff, right? But we're going to give you the appropriate information on how to maintain yourself. And if you choose to go against that, then that's on you. At the end of the day, you can't say your OGs ain't shit and they wasn't trying to tell you nothing of word. You feel me? But then you got
Right.
those that would encourage them. Go on over there. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Just don't go back to a level 4 after you do that, though.
Right. Right. No, that's 100%, homie. Because basically, what I get you're saying is, when we're out there gang banging, we got kids, wives, and mamas, and all that. Suddenly, when we get caught, don't be concerned with getting home to them. Then don't now all of a sudden don't be willing to compromise your morals as a gang member and this belief system that you claim to uphold. Suddenly, when things go bad, you got to be able to take the good and the bad. Which I want to say something briefly, right? And you said something in there about that makes you a real gang member or whatever, right? And this is what I want to say, homie. What determines, because a lot of times people love to make the argument that 6ix9ine wasn't a real gang member. He was a real gang member. What determines you to be a real gang member is when you get into a situation, if you can stand up or not. If 6ix9ine hadn't told, he would have been considered a real gang member. But 6ix9ine, however much money he had, let's just say 6ix9ine had $100 million. 6ix9ine had 100 million reasons now suddenly to compromise his morals as a gang member. 6ix9ine was putting hits on people. He was paying people to go to hits. Kill people. He was going to people's hood, antagonizing them, recording videos, even though it may have been 4 o'clock at night. So had he not told and had he chose to go to prison, he would have been considered a real gang member. In your opinion, is that true or false?
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely. See, what's crazy about this game and this gang culture is this, right? You will be considered in good standards until you're no longer in good standards,
Right.
right? And we have to look at that for exactly what it is, right? Now, just like you pointed out, He had all that money. He had the whole entire gangland in the palm of his hands, right? And all the dudes that was around him that encouraged and endorsed that, he was in good standings with until they got mad at him about whatever. And that's when they deemed him not a real gang member no more.
Right.
Right? So
But
go ahead, bro.
But no, I was saying, but even when them indictments and all that stuff came down, if he had a chose not to tell and went to the pen, he would have been considered a real gang member, right? So he, of course, now, due to all this money and this life of luxury, he's thinking about all these excuses. Well, Chill is over there. He's steady trying to fuck my baby mama. Crip is over there. He done stole the car keys. He out there riding around in my Rolls Royce. Dudes aren't being loyal. He made excuses to tell. If you hadn't stole that Rolls Royce and I hadn't been over there fucking his baby mama, he would have found other reasons to tell. You know what I'm saying? So I hate when people say that, oh, he wasn't a real gang member. He was real until he wasn't, like you say, homie. Yeah. So your answer, though, is kind of like segueing into my next question, right? About the PCs and so on and so forth, right? I see that you are very against that, as I believe as you should, right? Let me ask you this. How many individuals that you know personally have you seen go PC? Crips or Bloods?
Hey, I can be here forever. Like if I could name off a list of guys, right? But we would be here forever, and that's Crips and Bloods, right? Of people that I personally have known.
Okay, and that's all the answer that I wanted right there, right? So then it's fair to say that in this prison life, in this gang banging life, PC is a part of reality.
It absolutely is. It's an inescapable reality, right? Because everybody's level of
dedication. I say that all the time.
Yeah, that gangsterism, the dedication to it, right? It's not gonna be the same. You have different levels of gangbanging and gangsterism. You have different levels of it. Some guys that has risen to certain status in it, it didn't happen overnight for them. You had to gradually build your way up. You had to build your name. You had to, be amongst the wolves. You feel me? And It was a lot of wolves that was running around, in the prisons and in different communities from everywhere though. You had to build your name around these type of good guys, in order to not just survive, but coexist in that environment of dog eat dog if necessary.
Right. Because I heard you tell a story a couple of days ago about an individual who, in your words, you said he was attacked over and over and over and over and over and over and over. His homies had put a green light on him. He was attacked over and over and over and over and over, but he stayed the course to the point he earned the respect of his homies, and he refused to go PC. So in his mind, it was really death before dishonor, because he was not going to dishonor himself by going to PC, right? And so, but we've seen so many people go PC, right, of all races. So I'm saying all this to say, due to the fact that I have a prison show, if a dude doesn't have any unsavory charges, doing something to a child or a woman, then of course, yes, I like to interview these individuals, because I like to see and want to know. Because at one point in time, all Crips, Bloods, SAs, Northerners, whoever, Woods, we were all 100% against going PC. So what makes an individual who is so against it suddenly want to join it? If why didn't you take the route that the dude you mentioned speak on? Why didn't he really experience death before dishonor? So if in 99 you were so against going PC, then in 2000, what makes you go PC? And see, because like I say, I do a prison channel, homie, and PC is a reality of going to prison. Everybody does not stay on the main line. But Creep, now I want you to give your 100% opinion, homie, because I want you not to agree with me if you don't agree with me. What do you feel on interviewing a person who went PC possibly for having a drug debt? Are you just totally against it?
I'm gonna say this. Me personally, I wouldn't do it. And the reason why I am against it is for the same reason that I've been saying I'm against it, right? Which is you see these guys are not jumping on these big platforms giving the truth. They're not giving their testimony on when they decide to go PC and what their life is over there. They don't
Right.
give us a testimony on they will say this, oh, there's no rules, there's no politics. I can do this and do this and do that with no repercussions behind it. Lay the same sex and to each his own. We're not here attacking, right? This is not bullying. This is for educational purposes, right? But same sex, um, uh, being around, of course, people that does horrible things to children, to women, you know, and so on and so forth, right? So, and when they are given these platforms, they don't give you the aspects of that life over there. What you hear is a whole bunch of anger and bitterness. I just described this on my show, I think yesterday, right? But their heart is broken.
Right.
If you look at all the anger that comes behind these guys when they talk about the main line, if they was given the opportunity of forgiveness and being willing to go back into the fold, they would go back. They
Right.
wouldn't
Right.
have that bitterness for they lived under the same rules and guidelines that I lived up under, that I live up under right now, that I've been living up under for the past 30 something years. Been through every storm that you could think of, right? They pushed as hard as I have to push in regards to this. Some of them risen ranks within their own establishment. And for whatever reason, they got X'd out the game. Once they got X'd out the game and they was forced over to that other side,
Right.
they have all the anger. They are driven by anger. They're driven by hatred. They're driven by emotion because their heart is broken, because they can't live or stand with the fact of being put on a PC yard because they broke one of the rules. They wanted to be the exception and they wanted to be forgiven and they didn't get that forgiveness.
Right.
So their heart is broken. Listen to when they talk about it. If they was able to go back, trust and believe, they would go back in a heartbeat and you wouldn't hear all this anger and it's directed at the main line and all this and that. They will give you full testimony on what life is over there. None of them has done that. Ain't none of them came and kept it real and broke down the realities of living on a PC yard. How about you call it life after the main line?
Right.
Call it life after the main line. Why get over there, then get out, then get on these big platforms and say, I'm the piece of shit. Excuse my language, but I'm the one that's in bad standing because I'm on a level 4 general population mainline yard. I'm the one that's in bad standing and I ain't broke no rule. I've been living by the same rules and guidelines for over 30 something years. But I'm the one that's looked at as wrong. When these dudes are given these big platforms to be able to give you a watered down version on what life is. That's what I'm here to completely debunk. That's why I feel so strongly and passionate about these dudes being given. I understand, it needs to be an understanding on both sides of the coin. I get that. That's why I don't say if you're willing to interview one of them to gain a certain amount of understanding, if they keep it real and tell you about their life over there, then so be it. Do that interview. I'm not against that. If that's what you choose to do. You,
Right.
my brother, would never I would never crucify you for making the decision as a man because you are a person that I look up to. You are a person that I actually admire and respect to the highest degree. I would never for no instance go against that. Period.
And I appreciate that, like, right. And like I said, I'm just, because I know that the majority of people who watch these prison shows are intrigued, and they have never been right. And I get a lot of questions, people asking me this and asking me that, and a lot of these people have just a genuine curiosity, as well as myself. Like I say, if you're so against something, how did you wind up over there? And then it trips me out how some of these dudes who are no longer in good standings, but every now and then you can see bits and pieces of the gang member of them come out, right? And I wonder if they would have the same feelings had they not been pushed out, because some of them will talk about being against gangs is stupid, gangs is dumb, and you feel that way now because you're pushed out. I mean, I made the choice to come home and do what I feel is best for me and my family, right? But I wasn't pushed out. You know what I'm saying? So I just wonder how some of these dudes, like I say, who have these channels, every now and then you hear them gang banging or talking talk that makes me feel that if you wasn't pushed out, you'd be right back doing to what you're doing. You're just doing that because it's the only option. It's the only option that you have. But let me ask you, Crip, when did you looking back on it, when did you feel you encountered your first betrayal by the street? Like, and so with me, I'll give you an example. I thought everybody had the same dedication and the same belief that I did, right? And so when I got arrested and I realized other gang members was telling on me, that was one. And then when I went to the county jail and I shared some information about my case with an older Crip who had been to prison a couple times, and this dude wrote the DA talking about he had information, and he came and he testified, right, against me. So when did you feel, now looking back on life, when did you feel, you had a few serious betrayals from the street life?
Oh, that's off the top. Everything that's revolved around what I'm in prison for now, right? I've seen the highest level of betrayal that one could ever see, and it came from my inner circle, the people that I chose to bring into the fold in my surroundings. That's where the betrayal came in at. And when that happened to me, and then on top of that, like, see, that's why I tell the stories that I have told that surround why I'm here. I've told the story about being on the bus with one of my how I was led to believe that one of my young homies was telling on me, right? And how I attacked him, which wasn't true, by the way, right? But my mentality at that time was, being that I experienced the ultimate betrayal, when that was introduced to me as a possibility of this person, another person that was in my inner circle, supposedly making a statement, saying false things against me to get me locked up. That's why I approached it the way that I did. Right. You feel me? And it was that, it was another situation that I talked about during one of my first court days before my case even got bound over. I'm in the municipal court, and they send a OG dude in there in the tank from my hood. This person I hadn't seen since the last time I seen him was in 1991 in the county jail, right? Fast forward when I catch this case in 1995, here he come out of nowhere into the tank, sit down next to me, and start talking about my case, right? And while he's talking, it's like he's trying to get information out of me, specific stuff about this case. Right. And while he's sitting here talking to me, the one thing that's ringing in my head is me having a conversation with another one of my big homeboys at that time, and him telling me specifically, don't talk to nobody about your case but your lawyer. Nobody. Right. Don't say nothing to nobody. And here it is, this old dude come out of nowhere and is questioning me, and he's pumping so hard to get information to where he's actually telling me certain things about the police investigation on my case.
Right.
All
so And I was gonna say, so obviously it sounded like this dude was basically a plant. He had been sent there by law enforcement to try to extract a confession from you, but they had already given him enough information, and so it's crazy, homie. And that's why I say that, man. I've realized in this lifestyle, a certain number of individuals have to stick to the rules and stick to the script, or it's a worth it's then if not, it's a lost cause, because if you have 80 people from your hood and only 15 are true believers in the principles that in the tenets and stuff that go along with gang banging, it's eventually gonna fall by the wayside, because everybody has to carry their issue. Everybody has to carry their, you know what I'm saying? Everybody has to carry and do their job. It can't just be a few people pushing hard and everybody else living off the spoils. But then when stuff go bad, people don't want to participate, homie. And so, you know, it's a sad situation. And like I say, that's why I hate to see, quote unquote, the real ones locked up for so long, when a lot of these dudes who claim to be a participant have opted out, and sometimes they have opted out at the mercy or at the freedom of others, you know. And so let me ask you, what was your relationship like with the Northerners when you first came to prison? And do you feel if what created the deterioration between the relationships between blacks and Northerners, if you feel there ever started to be a decline?
Um, from my very first time coming to prison, Northerners have always been there, always been around, and we've always been cool with them. I used to trip on that because here it is, I'm a young Crip, and I come to prison, and and you have Northerners there that's functioning with us, that's wearing red. This was my first time seeing. I'm like, and I remember asking the homies, like, hey, like, these dudes wear red? They like, yeah, man, and they cool with us, they hang with us, and this and that. They have red on, red. This is when prison used to let you wear your colors. You'll see dudes on the yard with blue flannels, blue rags, blue house shoes, red house shoes. Like, this was still during the time where the prison would let you wear your colors. So it helped them to be able to identify who was who. That's why they allowed it. So anyway, yeah, when I first came to prison, like, the Northerners, they was always there. We was always cool with them. And then as years went on, we started having different little scrimmages with them over different stuff. You feel me? So I did see. I mean, like, I think when the Northerners and the Southerners came to their peace treaty, we felt like they was going to join forces with the Southerners to go against us. You feel me? Just to keep it real. And I remember seeing an interview where one of those dudes actually admitted that they was going to join forces with them, but they would have to totally fall up under the Southerners' politics. You feel me? In which they rebelled against. So I think that's where the divide comes in at, as far as them joining forces to go against the blacks. You feel me? But I do know that was an idea that was pitched to them, and something that we was very aware of.
And that was gonna be my next question, homie. So what is the sentiments and the feelings of the Crips and the Bloods out there when they hear things like this? Because, homie, at some point in time, I know, you know, it's a lot of, you know, people in prison who are now able to view social media more than back when it was in my day. And so I'm thinking that, homie, seeing all these stories, seeing how the blacks are portrayed, that doesn't at some point light a fire under the brothers and have a sense of pride and make them realize, homie, we got to come together and put this bullshit to the side. So what is the sentiment when they see stuff going on talking about the North and South is going to come together? Because we know, homie, if the North and the South do come together and the brothers don't come together, it's going to be all bad. So by you being there, homie, and having a bird's eye view, what is the feeling in the conversations and stuff?
Well, in all honesty, we don't really necessarily see the Northerners and Southerners like joining forces to come against us. We don't see that now, although that thought was there when they struck that peace treaty. This was in the beginning stages of this. That was definitely like just off of survivalism instinct. That's going to be a natural thing for them to join forces as Hispanics to go against the blacks. You feel me? So that was expected, right? But in this day and age, from conversations that I have with dudes that I'm around, it's more so the older dudes, bro, that feel the sense of it needing to be more togetherness rather
Right.
than it everything be, what I'm saying, tensed off. And you don't really see too much tenseness, although it is tribalism. It's always going to be tribalism, no matter how much we need to come together. It's always going to be tribalism. But in certain situations, like I've been in, when it got cracking, Crips and Bloods ended up banding together in prison. I'm talking about in prison, banding together and getting cracking side by side with each other. That is a fact. I've been in a few situations where that happened.
No, 100%, homie. And so I wasn't saying like what's going on when the brothers visually see the potential of the North and the South coming together. Just hearing talks about it on YouTube, right? Because as I'm listening to YouTube and some of these stories, the way I hear the blacks portrayed, I have to be honest, homie,
Oh, yeah.
it upsets me, right? And so that's what I'm wondering. I wonder at times, like, have the brothers up in there lost their sense of pride? Don't they realize at a certain time, homie, even if we don't see it, it's a certain time, homie, we have to get together. And then the bad part about, of course, when things jump off and the Crips and Bloods do get cracking, it's always a lot of times from a side of unorganization. If I just feel like if they was to get together, it would be stronger because everything happened would be organized and planned as opposed of just off the just fighting off the
Hey,
cuff.
let me ask you this, right? Think about the people that is painting the narrative of blacks, getting down a certain way, right?
Right,
Think about the people that's painting those narratives, right? The
right,
people that's doing that is dropouts. There is no real active gang members that is jumping online, that has a YouTube channel that is saying these disparaging things when it comes to how blacks is getting, for instance, when this whole 50-50 thing came about, everybody that jumped out there and spoke against it was all on PC yards, saying that the blacks was allowing the Southern Hispanics to force this up on us, and we had to fall in line with that. That was false. That was a narrative that was directly coming from a PC yard by these PCs because they wanted to go over there, put a pause on their gangsterism, go over there, do their time, get back out, so they can go back in the safety of their neighborhood without anything happening to them or without them being looked at a certain way for being on a PC yard. You feel me?
right.
So the feeble attempt of them trying to paint a narrative that the blacks are forced by another race to do anything is just absolutely ridiculous, bro.
And
And
no,
that's why I come to debunk a whole bunch of that BS that is put out there by them.
and no, that's a great point, homie. That's a great point, because I think it's a couple of reasons, right? I think for one, due to Crips and Bloods can speak on the politics of Crips and Bloods. You at times will have more dirty laundry aired than you will hear from Southerners or Northerners, especially when they're in good standings, homie. And so, because one thing after a while, it got to me to hear about a lot is blacks allow people with bad charges on the yard. blacks don't allow people with bad charges due to the fact that you have so many different fractions and people who don't gangbang. There are times when people may slip through the cracks because, you know, we feel that, hey, if a dude is from, like, if he's a non-affiliate, let's just say from Riverside, the dudes from LA and this and that is not going to ask for this dude's paperwork because we feel that dude is not our collective. The same way you may have a dude from another race, he may feel, okay, if this dude is black, it's not our obligation to go ask this dude for his paperwork. So what are your thoughts on those situations, homie? Do blacks with bad paperwork sometimes slip through the cracks? Do blacks allow people with, you know, bad charges to be on, you know, the 4 yard and stuff? What are your honest experiences on stuff like that?
My honest opinion from experience, right, is this, right? Do there be people on the main line, general population yard with bad charges or anything bad pertaining to them being in prison, right? Some slip through the cracks, and it's not just with the blacks. It's with all races. See, what people have to take into account is this. I've given a perfect example on my show of a situation that occurred with a dude that was in my car that hung with me all the time. He used to drink a lot, and I used to look at him and just trip like, why does dude drink the way that he do? Well, that was his demons eating at him, eating away, because he didn't know when we would find out what he was actually in jail for. It was killing him every day, and he was trying to drink his sorrows away, right? And I just found it crazy that he used to drink the way that he did. But when we found out about this guy being in jail and having bad charges on him after he went and PC'd up, he slid through the cracks.
So his paperwork was never checked?
His paperwork was never checked because, okay, this was when I was in Calipatria, right? Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, you have rules in Calipatria at this time. This was in 99, 2000, 2001, up in that area, right? It was rules. So being that it was so much going on, I'm there breaking my hand on dudes left and right. You feel me? It was a lot of cleanup work. So by the time he came around and you know, he ended up, it was just too much for us going on at that time. I'm fighting case after case. So by the time I'm in and out the hole, by the time I make it back to the main line, you feel me? Another dude then popped up. He was one of the ones that popped up after me going doing the shoot. So it never came about on him until he ended up PCing up, in which he wasn't there that long. He wasn't there that long. You feel me? But he ended up PCing up. We got his paperwork, and that's when we found out what he was in jail for.
Right.
So that was one that slid through the crack that I personally knew. Now, had trust and believe, had we known, this is during the time you got me, you got my homie Stutterbox from Angelo Mafia. You know
Stutterbox.
Yeah, we the main two in our car that's in and as Hoover Gumby. We in and out the hole. We in and out the hole. We are knocking stuff down on the yard. When one of ours came to the yard, man, trust and believe, like I had that reputation there. So for this person to slide through the crack, he got lucky. It was just luck, more so than anything, bro. You feel me? And it happens like that. It's not by chance or by choice, because like I said, if it would have came out, oh man, he would have left that yard extremely hurt bad. Real bad.
Right. And no, see, and like I said earlier, I just think, well, like you mentioned, it happens with all races. I just think that with our race, we are more inclined to talk about things that other races don't, right? I seen another podcaster of another race speak about being on the yard, and an individual with bad charges was on that yard. He was allowed to be on the yard because of who he knew. But the thing I'm trying to point out is, how many other times have situations like that occurred, but nobody never puts the information out there. You know, I would have never known about that had not this dude put the information out there. And so that's what I'm saying. I think that a lot of times you have more people who address things, the more Crips and Bloods maybe address things that relate to our politics than other cars, right? But there is no perfect system, and at times, like you say, people do slip through the cracks. But for individuals to think that Crips and Bloods will be cool with a person being on the yard with when he's graping women, and we all have mothers, daughters, female cousins, aunts. I mean, to me that's ridiculous, right? But let me ask you, homie, what do you feel has been the worst prison that you have been to since you have been incarcerated in terms of violence?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I'm gonna determine that question by the number of deaths. So I'm gonna have to say Calipatria, because it, uh, that was an extremely violent environment. Those was losing their life left and right there. When people wasn't getting killed, staff was getting assaulted left and right, women and all. Right? That's one place that I had. That's where I earned all the points that I ended up having. I caught a lot of cases in Calipatria, bro.
So
I ended up having over 300 and some points. The mass majority of those points I got in Calipatria.
So during what years were you? During what years were you in Calipatria? Would you say Calipatria was really cracking and off the chain?
I got to Calipatria at the beginning of 1999 from Salinas Valley. I got to Calipatria, B Yard, the beginning of 1999, and I left from Calipatria in like December of 2005. That's when I went to New Folsom.
Now I've heard you mention haven't you been to High Desert too? Because I heard a lot of people mention that High Desert was one of the deadliest prisons. How long did you stay there, and what were your feelings on High Desert?
Yeah, I was in High Desert. I got to High Desert in 2007 when I left New Folsom. That's where they put me up for. That's where I ended up going to High Desert. 2007, B Yard. That's when the B Yard was still a general population level 4 yard, 270. Right? I get there, and as soon as I get there, the people is going through my file. When I go to committee, and they like, oh, they say, oh, you like to fight. You one of those ones that like to fight, huh? And they say, yeah, you're in the right place, right? So I'm tripping like I'm in the right place, like yeah, you like violence, you're in the right place. And I didn't understand that until the first time I go to the yard. It's snowing at this time. It's snowing out there, so it's snow all over the yard. And I remember us being out there and me looking across the yard, and I see two dudes engaging in a fight that could have easily been put on the level of mixed martial arts, because they was getting it in the snow, right? And I'm like, damn, niggas is fighting in the snow. They fighting all in the like this, right? I'm tripping. I'm like, oh, I said, okay, it's that type of environment. I ain't never fought in the snow before. This is gonna be different for me, right? So yeah, man, High Desert, that was my introduction there, and they never lied, because when they said that place was violent, it was extremely violent. And you got to remember, High Desert is way out in the boonies. You got to leave California and exit back through some little hick city to get back in, to get to this prison, which is way set off way in the mountains. So bam, you get there, bro. There's no more black radio stations. There's no more black music. There's no more black nothing. All you hear is Taylor Swift and Clint Black. The closest thing that I heard to any black music up there was I remember they played Tone Loc, Wild Thing over and over on the radio station. right? Other than that, Clint Black.
And so is that the prison, homie, you said you was at? You was out on the yard, hanging out on the yard, and suddenly you got rushed. I believe it was by some Northerners with knives, or was it Southerners?
Yeah, those was Northerners. Yeah, man. I was out on the yard. A situation occurred where this guy. I told the story about him, right? He was from Fresno, ex Crip. Came. He was a booty warrior. Let's put it that way, right? This guy wrote Crip a weird letter, right? Like on some lover type stuff. So bam, when they get out that he did this guy's whole hood, their whole car put a green light on this dude. So whoever catch him, smash him. Well,
Uh huh.
anyway, um, he ended up knocking out one of this dude's homeboys who approached him on the yard. So when that happened, he went to the program office. The police, whatever he went in there and told them, the police come out tripping on all the Crips. So they trying to strip us down on the yard. We refuse it. That put all 90%, 95% of the Crips on lockdown. So just by chance, I make it out to the yard after that one day, and I'm sitting in the Crip area by myself, and I'm looking around the yard, and I'm seeing like dudes spread it out everywhere. It was blacks out there, but the blacks was like spread it out all over the yard. You feel me? So these guys, the Northerners, ended up targeting people that was like sitting by themselves. If it's one dude here, they're gonna have 3 or 5 on him. If it's two over here, they're gonna have about 7 to 8 on him, and so on and so forth, right? So bam, I remember sitting out there, and as soon as they called inline, I see 5 dudes running my way. Now, mind you, I'm sitting in front of my building. So I'm not there. I'm thinking they running to try to get in the building to get a shower position or something. You know how dudes be trying to rush off the yard.
Right.
So when I see them running in my direction, I'm looking, and I look behind me, and I don't hear the door open, and I don't see the door open behind me. So I'm like, damn, why they? And I look back, they getting closer and closer. But as they getting closer, I'm looking in their hand. They got knives in their hand, right? I look back again, make sure I'm not tripping. And by the time I turn my head back around, they up on me. I just jump up and just start swinging. They swinging at me, but they swinging with their head down, right? So these was a lot of young northerner Hispanic guys that didn't know what they was doing. Had they knew what they was doing, I was done. I was done. So all
Was
I did was just jump up and just start fighting for my life.
was it an ongoing issue with the North and the blacks? Why did they? What made them take off on the brothers?
Well, and for that situation right there definitely stemmed from a situation that took place before that, right? Which I also talked about on my show about the black guy, the older black guy that came out to the yard and took off on the head Nathaniel dude, right? Over a debt. I guess the dude owed him some money, and he felt like the dude was planning, and I guess he had got tired of whatever game he felt dude was playing with him. He didn't come out and say nothing to none of us. He didn't come out and say nothing to nobody. He didn't give nobody no warning, no nothing. He just walked. When he came out, he had to walk by us. And usually he would greet me because he stayed a couple of cells down. He didn't say nothing. He just came out, walked by us, and kept going. Went across the yard and took off on the dude,
Uh huh.
which started a big riot because when he did that, all his homeboys, all the other Northaniels got on his head. So the blacks that was immediately in that area see a black getting jumped, so that made them jump in it, and that's
Right.
how everything started from that point. That's what made them come back that day. I'm on the yard, try to attack us. It was
Oh,
retribution from
okay.
the first incident.
Right. Okay. And so, homie, if any, have you ever had any interactions on any level with the Bulldogs? And if so, what are your feelings, opinions about that collective?
I haven't had any personal dealings with the Bulldogs, right? However, I am very familiar with them, and they're not liked by nobody. You feel me? They're not liked by nobody. Point blank. Period.
Why do you feel that is?
Well, because they're not loyal to anything. They're not loyal to the Southern collective. They're not loyal to the Northern collective. There's no peace treaty between the Bulldogs and Crips. I don't know what their standings are with the Bloods, but I know with us, like it was ongoing different problems with them in Portland. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? In between the years of I'm gonna say 2010 up until they start having to move those dudes out of that prison. You know, from 2010 up to like 2015, 2016, there was
right.
back and forth issues with them.
And so, homie, you said that you've been on. Well, you didn't say I've seen in videos. You've been on different yards, and I think you did mention earlier too. There was a lot of deaths in Calipatria. What's it like, homie, to be on the yard and witness somebody lose their life, or know someone who has lost their life in the prison setting, homie? Does that make you feel you have to go hard? Does it make you feel what does that do to an individual who's who's on a prison yard like that and something like that happens?
Um, it's a trip. It's a trip, man. To to see somebody and you interact with them, you talk to them. You know, some you build friendships with, you build certain bonds with, and then a situation occurred, whether they got shot, whether they got stabbed, or just died from natural causes. I've seen all, right? I've seen all. So to go from being able to talk to somebody to seeing them dead in the next instance is a trip, bro. And I've described on my channel as far as the homie Gster from Fodu's Gangster, right? Passing away in Calipatria. Now he passed away from natural causes. But what's a trip about that is before it happened, we was all on the yard. And this is in Calipatria. We out there smoking. We'll meet up at the gate. The gate is a gate that they have going down the middle of the yard. You feel me? That separate one side from the other side, right? It goes halfway through the yard. So those would meet up at that gate from each side and be, chopping it up with their homies, smoking or drinking, and we're doing whatever, right? And I remember us being at the gate, Gster coming over there, hit the weed a couple of times, chopped it up with us, and then he went over. It was an area over by the kitchen, in between the work exchange and the kitchen, where they used to work out at, right there on the side of the track. And I remember after he hit the weed, he's like, "All right, I'm finna go get my workout in." Bam, like, all right, bam. He walk off. About 15 minutes later, we hear the dude in the gun tower, "Get down, get down, get down!" Right? He's screaming for everybody to get down on the ground, all of us. So we look over there and we see. At the time, we couldn't tell who it was because they was laid out, and we see one of the homies over there, like pumping on his chest. You feel me? And we like, who is that? Who is that? By the time we realized it's Gster, the homie Gster, man. Went over there, started this workout, and fell out. He fell out and died right there on the yard.
And I seen that story on your page, right? And in that story, you mentioned that his uncle as well happened to be on the yard, and his uncle, I was in Salinas Valley with you as well. His uncle happened to be the individual to give me my very first knife in Salinas Valley.
Yeah, man. His uncle was there, man, and
And
uh,
Gster was he was a relatively
he
young
was
individual,
he
right?
was young. Yeah, Gster was like 21. He was like 21, 21, 22 at that time. And
Wow.
and that's what was a trip because this dude was healthy. This is somebody that I interact with every day. You know what I'm saying? That was the homie, man. It was a trip. And then he's in there with his uncle that day. His uncle didn't even go to the yard. Usually he would be out there with him, busting down, and he didn't go out that day.
Hmm.
So when this happened, his uncle in the cell. So we coming back in the building, he's standing on his door like, "Where my nephew at?" Right? That was the hardest shit I ever seen, bro. Like ever having to, witness, because when he found out what happened, his facial expression, everything changed. And I
Right.
remember them letting him out the cell and him rushing out the building. Right? He rushed out the building, and then when he came back in that building, I'm talking about full-fledged breakdown, crying. You feel me? He came to all
Right.
our cell and let us know that bro was officially passed away.
Yeah.
You feel
And,
me?
and
That man.
and that's crazy. Like you said, at the age of 21, here's an individual that you seeing every day, and just that at 21 years old, who thinks an individual was going to pass away, at 21, and it's crazy, homie. And let me ask you, I remember, because when I got to prison in 96, that was my first time coming to prison in California, right? And I'm going to keep it real. When you young, you still embracing the gang ideology. All this shit is fun, right? Every time I hear somebody was supposed to get whooped or knocked out or stabbed, I'm coming to the yard to get me a front row seat. I want to see this shit. It's all fun because
Exactly.
it's always fun when you're young and it's not you. But then at
Exactly.
some point, you get tired of laying on the ground. You get tired of just sitting outside for hours in the rain or the wet or all this type of shit, right? And you realize like, man, I done been in prison 15, 20 years. I'm wasting all my life. So was there ever a point in prison that prison no longer became fun? And so it may sound crazy to the people when I say fun, right? But when you're young, you embrace that ideology, you embrace that lifestyle. I know me personally, I knew that prison was a result of what I was doing. So while I didn't want to go to prison, when I went, I knew that it was a consequence of something that I wholeheartedly believed in. But at some point, prison was no longer fun. Did prison ever? I was in prison maybe about 15, 16 years, and you get tired of doing the same shit every day, day in and day. And that's when I realized, man, this shit is no longer fun. Did you ever experience a moment like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also told this story on my show, right? Um, Being in New Folsom State Prison and getting in a couple of situations that led me to the hole, right? And I remember the first time I went back there, um, I'm in there and I'm hearing about all these people unaliving themselves when they get back there, right?
Right.
That had happened like a multiple times in New Folsom State Prison, right? Whole, as said. It was so bad to the point where they developed a system of coming by checking on you every 15 minutes on the clock. And every time they come by your cell, it's a thing. It's like a monitor thing that they have, and then it's a thing on your door that they connect that monitor thing to every time, right? And it's letting them know that you're still alive, and then they're reporting what they see you doing at the time. Every 15 minutes they do that. They got to do this around the clock every 15 minutes, all day,
Mm.
every day. So, and then you have the psychologist that comes down the tier probably every 30 minutes around the clock. They're giving you different like puzzles and little jigsaw puzzles and stuff like that, right? To try to spark your mind and get it off of you being in the hole, right?
Right.
So I remember going back there and hearing about all this crazy stuff, and then damn, I get out a week later, I'm back in there again. This time when I get back in there, they send me to the same role that I had just got out of. So the same dudes is there. They like, damn, Duroc, like, man, you not bullshitting, you back already. You just left a few days ago and this and that, right? Right. So I'm feeling more like a fool than anything, right? However, I get inside that cell and I remember um um being in deep thought and somebody calling me down from down the tier. Hey, Do Rock. So I go to the door, I jump up, I go to the door like, hey, what's up? Who is that? And this person announcing himself to me, he was Twin. His name was Twin from neighborhood Rolling 40s Crip. He right down the tier. So he like, hey, I'm finna shoot my line down there. I'm like, all right, I already know what he want. He want my 128G, what I'm back there in the hole for, to so he can see that I'm active. I'm not a PC. That he can deal with me. Once I'm cleared, by the Crips back there that's active, then that's when they will send you books and all this stuff, right? So that's what happened right here. So I sent him my paperwork. Bam, I get cleared. He sent me books down there, right? One of the books being the 48 Laws of Power. So I just remember just occupying my mind with these books and then just having this epiphany like, I'm tired of this shit. I have to. I've been told so many times by my homeboys, man, why are you always the one that's catching the cases? We got all these homies, these dudes that want to be part of something. You need to start letting them stepping up, putting in work. Why you always got to be the one that's catching these cases, going to all these weird ass courthouses, fighting this extended time that they trying to put on you. You need to chill, man, and slow down. You don't have to be involved in everything. And this time when I'm in Folsom, in the hole for the second time in the week, that's when I had that epiphany. I'm tired of this shit. I have to start thinking better. I have to start
Right.
feeding my mind more healthier things, and I have to cleanse my spirit because I'm too engulfed in the bullshit and too willing. You feel me? And that's when
Right.
it stopped being fun and started getting real to me. That's when I had the epiphany.
And homie, you've been in prison for a long time, unfortunately, and unless a person has been in prison and had certain things removed from his life, he may not even understand what it's like to miss the simple things in life. What are some of the small, simple things, homie, you miss, like maybe a piece of gum or a plum or whatever it is, homie?
I miss, where I come from, my city. We got like a lot of orange groves and apple trees and all that stuff, right? And if you walk through the city, it's like a lot of different yards, people with yards that got these trees growing. I miss just being able to walk through my city comfortably, being able to pick an orange off the tree and keep it moving. I
Right.
never went hungry in my hood because I was able to do stuff like that. And then not
Right.
be looked at as funny or looked down upon. That was just our way of life out there.
Yeah. And so, homie, in closing, man, I really appreciate you coming on here, right? And actually my fault, even though we have it at the bottom of the screen, I haven't mentioned for those who may not know, he has a very informative, outstanding podcast known as the Swing Low Podcast. And what I admire most about this individual is a few things, right? Is his honesty, his wisdom, and he hasn't let being where he is dictate the way he disseminates information, the way he talks about things, right? Because I always say people tune into these prison shows and channels and podcasts. They want the prison information until they hear something about somebody that they know, or something that they care about, a race, a color, a gang, and then they no longer, they want to get angry and upset. But prison is prison. It's a lot goes on. I'm sure it's a whole lot that he has experienced that he's not even going to talk about, right? But I do like when he speaks, he tells a story how it happens, and he has not let his surroundings influence the individual that he is. Because prison is a place that can make a person of all races racist. It's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of separation going on, man. So I implore you guys, to check out his podcast, man. The Swing Low Podcast. Anything, homie, in closing that you want to hit us with?
Well, I mean, hey, again, man, I can't express enough gratitude towards you, bro. Again, I'm thankful that you invited me into your home. I'm thankful for all the love that you've shown me. I'm thankful for all the people that have become aware of me because of this platform. Those of y'all that have come from 16 to life and have come and gave us a chance over at my round table. Hey, man, I appreciate all of y'all. Chill, man. Hey, you are one of the greatest friends that a person can have. I would definitely always have certain amount of love and respect for you that would never ever be negotiated, bro. So again, thank you. I appreciate you.
Once again, homie, thank you, for coming on the platform and being who you are, homie. I really can respect the way that you have stood up under the test of time, homie, and you haven't compromised who you are, because I know that is a cold situation that we find ourselves in sometimes, unfortunately, homie. And I'm sincerely, homie, sincerely praying for your freedom. Just knowing the individual who you were back then, listening to you, speak now, I see that there's a change. There's a big change in you, and I truly believe and know, homie, that when you get your freedom, that change will continue to grow because it's homie, when we come home to see certain things out here, after a while, that prison stench, it starts slowly fading off, and we start, becoming the people that God and our parents and all that intended us to be. Because unfortunately, in prison, especially to survive and stay on the main line, we have to become certain individuals at times. We have to do certain things, homie. And, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's the life that we chose, homie. But when we come home, there's always a chance to grow, be around family. Shout out to your mom, homie. I hear you mention her often. And that's just a blessing. That's a blessing, homie. That's a blessing to still be able to, have your mom in your life. And shout out to Miss Golden. I know she supports you. Shout out to all your subscribers, homie, and everybody who rocks with you, because people fail to realize those small things sometimes make a big difference in, a person's mind state in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, once again, homie, I sincerely pray for your freedom, homie. I sincerely pray for your freedom. Hope you get a chance to get out here and experience this life, homie.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. And to double back on what you said, shout out to my wonderful moms. I love and appreciate you. And most definitely shout out to Miss Golden, my centerpiece, my sidekick, my best friend, my co-host, my everything, man. And to everybody that come to the round table, man, and is in support of what we do over there, I promise you, I will not let y'all down. The growth in me that you see as a man will continue to grow. I will continue to expand, and y'all will continue to be right there with us for that whole journey. Salute to all of y'all. All love.
Yes, sir, homie. Hey, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe.
Likewise, brother.
All right,
Salute.
for sure. Salute.